Well, hi. Today is Friday, August 29th, 2025. I'm Todd Studer, and this is Morning Coffee. We've made it to Friday. The weather has been beautiful. Looks like it's going to be a wonderful Labor Day weekend. I'm looking forward to it. And by the way, we're not going to have shows on Monday because of Labor Day, so we'll be back with you on Tuesday. I take the normal, traditional holidays off, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, and typically New Year's too. So those are my days off, and so we'll be back with shows for you on Tuesday. So today, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, the election is coming up in Council Bluffs, and we know that we're going to be voting on mayor again. The current mayor, Matt Walsh, is running again, and other candidates are running. And also, we're going to be electing new city council members. And I wanted to just tell you a little bit about what it is that I'm seeing out there online right now. For the most part, it's pretty civil, but occasionally not so much. And that is what the topic today is. And I thought, well, if we needed to learn how to communicate with each other, who better to talk to than Carol Horner, the author of the book Spiral of Accountability? That is what the book is all about, is teaching people how to communicate with each other. And I thought, let's see whether or not we can add a little bit more civility to what's going on. Like I said, for the most part, I've seen folks talking about their own views and who they're supporting and that kind of thing. It's the ones that go negative and start into the name calling that is, to me, that's just not a direction that we need to go, because then you're only backing people into a corner and you're not giving them an opportunity to respond, and especially with it's online. So this talk today with Carol Horner, please, it's an important one. And I hope that we can all get something from it. I know that I did, and I was involved with the conversation. So that is today's episode of Morning Coffee. Do you or does someone you love need in-home care? Home Care Advocacy Network helps you maintain your own privacy and your own space while still receiving care and support with a personalized touch. Aging in place is critical for many people, and Home Care Advocacy Network can meet those needs with an understanding that assisted living is best at home. Visit hcan.com/Southwest Iowa to learn more. Well, I know that Travis Waldstein is going to be heading to the east. He's got a football game to taking his camper over, and is going to be enjoying the Hawkeyes at Kinnick Stadium, taking on Albany. And also want you to know that if you have HVAC issues, your air conditioner acting up, you want to get your furnace checked before it gets cold and you really need it, then you want to get a hold of AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning in Council Bluffs. AirServeCouncilBluffs.com is the website. And since 1870, Avela Bank has been providing Iowans with high-quality financial products and services to fit their needs. Whether you need a loan, would like to start a new business account, need to save money for a trip, or are looking to open a personal checking account, Avela's qualified bankers can help you with all of that and more. Visit avela.bank to learn more. Back with us this morning, it is Carol Horner, author of the book Spiral of Accountability, and very grateful that I get a chance to talk with you and on a repeated basis on the show, because you just have so much great insight into a lot of different things. So welcome back. Thank you very much.
I enjoy our conversations, Todd.
Well, what you talk about in Spiral of Accountability is, to me, it's kind of owning your own part in the conversation. Would that be an accurate way of putting it?
That's that definitely is a piece of it. Absolutely, for sure.
So with what we are coming up in the area in which we live in Council Bluffs, and with this being an election year, because we're going to be voting on mayor, we're going to be voting on city council members, and that tends to start conversations that oftentimes are based in opinions, hyperbole, but it's hard to know exactly what the facts are. Yeah. And I'm starting to see that a little bit. So I thought, well, if maybe I can get Carol to shed a little insight on this, and to see if we can't turn that spotlight back on ourselves when it comes to having those conversations.
Yeah. And, part of what what goes on with a lot of this. So I'm writing the sequel to
Yes.
Spiral of Accountability, and I'm writing that specifically around this actual topic right here. Not so much politics, but just the idea of polarity and the idea of not creating kind of a shared meaning and shared communication and create what we call generative communication, which is allowing for things to become. And a big part of it stems from just how divided that we have gotten as a society. And it's an either or. We're unwilling to accept gray areas. We're unwilling to accept fogs, right?
Right.
And you know, and so the idea of spiraling down and getting to that place of generating our commiserators, the people that are going to look at it the exact same way we do and say the exact same things we do, and then we get all riled up in our self-righteousness and contempt, and act in ways that really are not um, part of our values, frankly. We will belittle other people. We will, call them names, just berate them with negativity, as opposed to opening up the conversation and solving problems, right? And and so where this really stems from is, as a human, what we've gotten to in society is that when we have a disagreement about something or a misunderstanding about something, that instead of keeping that something separate from the relationship and just say, okay, we have this subject here that we're not agreeing on, and can we use our relationship to work through this disagreement, right? Get to a place where we find what common ground we have. We work through impasses if necessary, but we move forward together. But we keep this outside the relationship because the relationship is the piece that's going to help us do that. But instead, what we do is we put it right in the middle of the relationship. And if you disagree with me or don't like my idea, you hate me, I hate you now, right? And it's that severe, frankly. And what that creates then is that now we still have this conflict and this problem, but we don't have a relationship to work through it.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing this a lot inside of businesses. So when you talk about not talking about politics or religion or any of the things that consider the hot button items, this is what's got us into this mess, is that we don't have any practice having these kinds of conversations. And yet we are human beings, right? And we have thoughts and ideas and opinions and values, and the more that we can be open to not only expressing our own but hearing others, right? And so there's a I've spent a lot of time in the first 8 months of this year researching for my book and learning, really, really doing the work inside of me, because this is hard. It is hard not to go, you're an idiot because I don't agree with you. It's hard not to do that, right? Versus, being able to say, I'm not seeing it that way. Tell me more about what you're thinking. How did you get here? What's true for you and how did you get here? And it requires two things. One is called generative listening, and generative communication, generous listening, right? So generative communication is that we have a conversation in which we are balancing advocacy and inquiry, where I don't cease to advocate for what I think and believe, but I also inquire to yours, and I make my thinking clear and ask for you to do the same. And we create this dialogue that allows for us to emerge with some common thoughts around some things, and understanding where our differences lie. Because sometimes it's not as personal as we make it by any stretch of imagination, and it just gets into this mess, because if you're not with me, you're against me, and it's just not that black and white, right?
I think too, and this is going to sound a bit hypocritical coming from me because I make my living online.
Yeah.
And however, the algorithms in the internet are, regardless of the site, are designed to feed us the information they think that we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
So the end result is we are now online anyway, living in an echo chamber.
Mm-hmm.
And we are only seeing the things that agree with us or we are seeing the things on the other side put in a way that is demeaning, and we start to think that that's normal. I've made comments before about, if you are getting into a political argument and you start calling someone names, is your desire and your goal to actually implement change, or is it to get like-minded people to pat you on the back? Because when the name calling starts, all that's going to happen is the pats on the back. You will not implement any change at all because people will shut down and they'll stop listening.
And this is the thing about why spiraling down is so addictive, right? It's that what starts out as this misunderstanding or confusion or disagreement, right? This fog experience turns into this saga, right? With a villain that we lash out at, and we're full of self-righteousness and contempt. And so much so we will violate our own values in the name of the group. And what people need to understand about commiserators is commiserators don't have your back. Collaborators do.
Right.
Commiserators do not. And so if the dialogue changes, or if you venture in a different direction, or differ in something else, you get ostracized out of the commiserators, right? And then they commiserate over you, right? That they don't have your back. Commiserators never have your back. And so the idea is, how do we keep ourselves from getting to this space? And, I'm going to probably be all over the place on this, but part of what I teach coaches to do, and I tell people and even colleagues to do for each other, and this is true to friendships, right? You you don't let your friends go here and be in this space of commiserating. You don't go there with them. You help pull them out, because it is miserable and it's difficult to get out of that hole yourself. And have you ever had those conversations with people who just can't find anything positive?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They have gotten to that place. They're not a negative person. We have a tendency to just write them off as that. No, they're just so stuck down here that they have no way out. And it's not a matter of, you got to talk positively or you got to think positively, because that's Pollyanna stuff. But we have to work through the process of our difficulties and our differences and our challenges and the negativity. We have to work through that. And we do it through questions and support, right? Versus statements. And that's the real difference in the spiral, right? Spiraling down is very, very much about statements, absolute statements. Like, these people are going to always be wrong. If you have a D behind your name, you are always wrong to an R. If you have an R behind your name, you're always wrong to a D. And the poor people that got the I in the middle are going, what the heck is going on here? What the fog, right?
There you
And
go.
it's like, because they don't fit in anywhere. And so they find their own commiserators to talk about how, nothing's set up for them, right? And I think it comes down to, what we really need to boil it down to is having really effective conversations. So part of what I've been studying is, and this is hard work, is generous listening. And generous listening is, can I hear from you what is true for you right now, whether I believe it to be true or not, right? Or if you're misguided on data, right? That, like, I have data that says what you're saying is inaccurate, right? Is, instead of that, can I hear you for what's true for you and how it became true for you? And only listen to this, right? I'm not here to change you. I'm not here to, tell you you're wrong. I'm here to hear you, because you got to your truth in a way that I didn't get to that same truth, right? Even if we had similar experiences, we're not interpreting them the same way, and we're not getting to the same truth. But can I hear you and see you as a human being? Because this is what happens when we start to get in this commiserating, is that the other side is not human anymore. They are evil, always wrong, and our enemy, as opposed to a family member or a friend or a neighbor, or an American, right? And so being able to a fellow human, at least, right? and being able to look at this other human being and go, okay, we're not in the same place, but what got you where you are? And
I
in
think those
hopes,
are, yep,
in hopes they give me that opportunity to say, here's how I got where I am.
those are great questions to ask, because oftentimes what we see is, and especially online, because there's no circumstances, there's no, uh, nothing happens to
No
us by
exchange.
making some horrible,
Mhm.
comment online. But what we do is we see something that has happened, and then we put our own reason behind it.
Mhm.
This is what you really meant by
Mhm.
saying this. And
Or this is what I would have meant.
yes, and I'm seeing that even down all the way to a local election.
Yeah.
I'm seeing these kind of things online already, that, oh, well, this is why this person is running, because this must be true because it fits the narrative that I want to tell.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that already.
Yeah.
And, and we're early into this election cycle. And I have a feeling that it's only going to get worse, because we've got this one or two issues that everybody is focused on, and they don't want to ever come off of that. I see, from even some well-known people falling into this trap. I see these comments online. So
Mhm.
that's why I really wanted to talk to you about this, because we need to find a way to be able to sit and have conversations again. And my opinion is online debates are pointless.
Yeah, because they're not a debate. They're an exchange of one-liners.
Very true.
They're not a conversation, right? They're not you're not hearing, basically about 7% of what we mean by what we communicate, 7% comes from the words we use. The other 93% is coming from body language and tone of voice. And when you take 93% of your meaning out of, you better be really critical in the words that you choose. We're not critical in the words that we choose in social media. We're using slang. We're using, 4 or 5 words when really it should be 5 sentences. And certainly, and then we also use the "I'm not this, but,"
Oh yeah.
which is "but" stands for "behold my underlying truth." In other words, whatever I said before I said "but" doesn't really exist.
Yeah, you've just
However,
eliminated
is "but."
everything. Yeah, everything before the word "but" is
Yeah.
now
And so it
just
has to be
disregarded.
like, and starting with, and we get so self-centered on me, as opposed to going, hey Todd, I'm hearing what you're saying here. Can you tell me more? I need to know, I need more information because I want to be able to have an exchange with you, but I need to understand you better. We're you don't have those conversations online. You have those in person. But we're not having these conversations because it's not okay. It needs to be okay. It needs to see part of, one of the things I've been studying is peace building. I received a certification from a joint certification between Rotary and the Institute for Economics and Peace, which is an international organization, on as a positive peace builder. And part of what we learn is really that significant difference between negative peace and positive peace. Negative peace means the absence of war and violence. That's all negative peace is. Positive peace is the presence of opportunities for people to thrive together, right? And one of those really key criteria is the acceptance of another's rights. And I stretch that to just acceptance of another's humanity and acceptance of this, who this person is constantly evolving. And if I don't give them opportunity to continue that evolution, they get stuck where they are. And so what happens is that we jump on each other. And so then we got to dig in deeper and hold on to our truth, more absolutely. So we will absolutely ignore information that might change our mind because I have to defend me as opposed to looking at things and going, we have issues. And this is the information I have on this issue. What's the information you have? And where do we have common ground? Where do we have difference that we need to debate it out? Absolutely. Conflict is not bad. it's done badly, right? Being able to have really effective, productive conflict is an incredibly important skill in today's age. Incredibly important. And part of that is being discerning about information. I don't take things at the first whim. I used to, but I don't now. I fight real hard to go, hey, Carol, realize this fits your narrative. How sure are you of this? You know, and can I explore that more? Can I learn more? Can I try to find out more? And when I get called on the carpet because I've made a mistake, I own that mistake. It's hard to do. It's hard to say, you know what, you're right. I totally missed that. Thanks for the information. But being able to have that humility of that, you know what, I can't possibly know it all. It's not humanly possible. It's not humanly possible to have all the information on anything at all, because our brains are so involved in so many other things, we cannot attend to something enough to have all of the information that's available to us. I mean, it's absolutely pure brain science, right? So you experience something through a physical sense, right? That's where facts end. Facts end at the physical sense. Seen, heard, touch, taste, smell. After that, it's all an interpretation. And in that interpretation, I'm assigning my values, my life's experiences, and this narrow little vision that I have, because it's all I can pull from. And not to mention, of all the things I can observe, I'm not going to get it all. Like, you ever driven home and don't remember the drive?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't capture anything that meant anything to you. But it doesn't mean that you ran a stop sign. It just means that nothing stood out for you to go, oh, interesting. And so because of that, you are, none of the things you observed made it inside your brain for more than the absolute infinitesimal moment of seeing, hearing, touch, taste, smelling.
And
Because you didn't
sometimes
hold on to it.
sometimes when that happens too, and I'm going to use the driving analogy again, that we can only see a very narrow thing over and over that's happening. This happened to me a few weeks ago, and I caught myself before I said anything to anybody about it. But I'm on my way, I'm driving, and I'm out on the interstate, and it just seemed like one person after another was cutting me off. And it's, what is going on today? Why is everybody such a bunch of morons out here on the road? There was no difference. None.
Same day.
But
same experience.
I could guarantee that there was no difference on that day than on any other day. It's just that particular day, I was zeroed in on it.
And
That was all I was seeing.
Yeah. And I was in a hurry and they were in my way.
That
so
too.
like,
yeah.
And we call them that. And, it's one thing inside your vehicle to just let off a little steam, but it's another thing when this is made publicly and with others. And because the hurt is long term, right? Repairing relationships is hard. And, and so our need to be able to have just really robust calm, right? Not calm in the sense that everybody needs to be subdued and totally zen, because I'm not capable of that. Well, I am, but not when I get excited about a subject or whatever. But being able to just have that connection with another human being that says, I see you, I value you, right? Because we're all valuable. And I'm going to hear your thoughts and ideas. I'm probably not going to agree with them, but I bet we have some common ground. And so I have, in preparation for my book, I've been practicing these skills, right? I've been practicing generous listening. I've been practicing generative communication. And I've had some conversations with some folks that didn't vote like me, right? And we would have these conversations and I would work really, really hard. One, keep my energy down, at least managed, right? And even though one of the conversations I had, us getting animated was no big deal. Our relationship tolerates animation, right? I still tried real hard to just manage that. And I spent a lot of time asking questions when I really just wanted to chime in and go, no, it's this way, it's this way. And instead I would ask questions. And what I found was we had completely different interpretations of words. And when we started to realize what we meant by when we said words, right? It was like, no, that's not what I mean when I say that. And they're like, that's not what I mean when I say that. I said, let's talk about what we mean. And we could find that we were just describing something very, very different in using the same word to describe it. And so being able to expand upon that and realize, we had a lot of common ground and we had some really big differences, but understanding why her differences, why she got to that place of understanding and I got to my place of understanding was really life experiences. Right. And so to have them be able to share and go, this has been my experience. And she's like, this has been my experience. We had this really awesome conversation. I mean, at the end, this is a dear friend of mine who I love dearly. I know she loves me too. And the hug I got from her at the end of this conversation was the best hug we've ever had. And she's like, thank you. And I'm like, thank you. And she's like, we got to do this again. I said, oh, yeah. Now, we didn't solve anything, but we see each other like we did before the whole daggum election happened, right? As this beautiful human spirit that is worthy of my heart, my love, right? And so, and I've had several of these conversations, and it's amazing how well it goes, even when we're not in the same place. Now, I have not had conversations that to the extremes, right? Because I'm quite the centrist, but I have not had those conversations because I need more practice in growing my skills and my capability and my self management before I venture into, a public debate with somebody I don't even know that is really like chomping at things that trigger me, right? And so I just know that I need to practice more and more before I can handle those kinds of conversations. But I will get there, and it's worthy of my effort to get there.
And it is a journey. It
Yeah.
is. I remember a few years ago talking with someone, and she had said that she'd gone back to her class reunion or something, and it was like a 20-year class reunion. And somebody said, "Boy, you sure have changed." And she said, "Why wouldn't I? It's been 20 years. Of course I've changed. I'm not."
If we're not growing and evolving and transitioning and becoming, we are dying
Mhm.
and stagnant in death. And it's true for every living organism. And so as human beings, we have to, I'm 60 years old and I am continuing to learn and grow and become more true to who I am each day that passes. And it takes work. I learn about myself. I learn about others and how to interpret others and view others. I learn how to have good dialogue. I learn how to have good conflict because I think conflict is so valuable. It's 90% of my work right now is helping teams navigate conflict and to value conflict. We get much better ideas when we debate than when we all agree. If someone says like this and then walks out of the room and goes like that, you have a saboteur. They may not even be intending to be a saboteur, but they're a saboteur at this point, and because they're not going to help the idea go forward, even though they shook their head yes. And so I teach about weighing into buy-in, right? Not consensus. Consensus is unrealistic. Between two people, it's unrealistic. Sometimes consensus with myself is unrealistic. It's just not. It's not likely, right? So the idea is, can we work through and agree to move forward on a particular idea? And I have done this before. I tell this story in the work that I did. I way back when, I'll tell this story. I was I was chair of Celebrate CB for like a decade, which is way too long. Way too long. You need to turn people over. That's just ridiculous. And so I really said, look, we've got to turn me over. I'm kind of burnt out. And so I agreed to stay on one more year. We had a new chair and she was fabulous. And I agreed to stay on one more year just as an advisor because I had so much back knowledge. Right. And so I said, I'm not going to be involved in the the day to day, I'm just going to, and I'll volunteer the day of for Celebrate CD for the parade day. And so I sat in on a meeting, and they had decided at that point in time they weren't going to do the carnival that year. And all I could think was, this is a bad idea. This is awful. This is, whoa, not going to work. This is horrible, you know. And I stopped myself and I said, okay, team, tell me. I have these concerns. I have these concerns. I want to endorse our ideas because that's my job as a teammate. But I have these concerns. My concerns is that we're going to get a lot of pushback from the public, and how are we going to keep people in the in the park after the parade? And they're like, well, we've got these ideas. And so they had all these great ideas, and I'm like, those are really great ideas. At the same time, I'm still thinking we're gonna face a backlash. I said, so give me talking points. Help me out. Help me be able to go out here and defend and endorse this idea when I'm concerned about it. And so they did. They gave me all these great ideas of things they were. First of all, everything was 100% free, which Carnival wasn't. It was, all kinds of live music and just tons of really awesome activities. I'm there that day, and when I go out, and because at that point in time, the nonpareil was still contacting me, people were still contacting me, because I had been the face for so long. And I said the things. I said, look, we're doing 100% free activities, and it'll be great family engagement, because one of the things that they were concerned about was that parents come, sit at a picnic table, and unleash their children on the carnival, and there's no family, right? And so these were all family activities, and so I was talking that up. And actually catching myself getting excited about it. And sure enough, that day, which my task that I volunteered for was to haul trash. You do what you do for your community, right? And oh my goodness, the park was alive, and it was so incredibly awesome. And then we get a phone call from emergency management, and there's a big storm coming, and we had to clear everybody out. And I was so massively disappointed because it was going so well. And I would have, if I could have squished that idea, because I had that influence and that power. I could have squished it. I could have said, this is stupid. You guys are idiots. You can't do this. I could have said those kinds of things. Now, those are not kinds of things I say to people that I care about anyway, but I was very, very careful and chose my words wisely to show that I want to be a member of the team. I just have these concerns. And they were able to respond to those concerns, and gave me the confidence that maybe this will work, right? Enough that I need to do my job as a teammate and defend and endorse what we come up with. And that is just, it's really, really hard for people to do. But I tell you, when you get outside of yourself and think community instead of just me, because really, honestly, you know what I was most concerned about? The shit I was going to get from people that were like, I had some woman come up to me and say, you just ruined our entire family's, history of and tradition. And I'm like, build a new one, build a new tradition. Let's take that opportunity. But, I was worried about that backlash and looking bad in the community. And it turned out it was a fabulous thing. And then, the things changed again, and they continue to evolve that activity based on kind of who's got what ideas at the time, which is exactly how Celebrate Shibi should be, not this traditional of exactly the same thing every year, because that's boring. And that's where I was taking them, as I was making it boring. So it was really good to get out of there, but for the benefit of the community. Right? But that's the thing that I think is missing, is we are neighbors, right? And part of positive peace building is that our society is connected in ways that we are supportive of one another, and we look at the community as a whole, as opposed to just me and my part, me and my little pot of people, and what we matter and what we think and what we want, and it's all I'm going to listen to are these people. That's not community, right? We are a diverse community. We're not a large community, but we're big enough, and we have quite the diversity in our community, in thinking, and in demographics, and all of the things. And that diversity can bring us lots of creativity. I mean, look at the First Avenue. Look at, it's just unbelievable. Look at the riverfront now, and it's continuing to expand. Look at the parks and all the renovations that have gone in our parks, and we've got new parks, right? And we've got more new parks coming. And I think it's looking at our community as a whole. Like, I don't have kids. Why would I care about, places for kids to play? Because kids are in my community. And my friends have kids and grandkids, mostly grandkids at this point, but it's important to our society, not just what's important to me.
Well, try to spend a day not using the word they and only use the word we. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And see whether or not we can find some common ground.
Absolutely, Todd.
Well, listen, Carol Horner, thank you so much for your insight, for the work that you do, for are we going to change anybody's lives? I don't know, but I do know that we can't if we don't try.
That's right.
It's a sports metaphor that I use a lot, and I think you could appreciate this, having done so much with the Spirit of Courage golf tournament, that you will miss 100% of the putts that you leave short. So
exactly.
Yep. Let's get after it. All right, Carol, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to the next time.
Yeah, me too.
If you haven't seen it yet, there is a new feature on my website, lushillsmedia.com. We are releasing stories that we have here on the show, but also additional ones in article form. So it's just in print. Lus Hills Today is what we are calling it. And if you go to lushillsmedia.com, you'll see a link for Lus Hills Today and be able to check out some print-style articles right there on the website. Sue Pitts is the one that helps me with my website. She has Just Sue Creative, and she's really, really good at website design, search engine optimization, content creation. She does marketing, everything you need to take your company to the next level. So visit her site, justsuecreative.com, and click on that free consultation button. And if you're looking for a laid-back spot with great food and even better company, it's the Mile Away in Council Bluffs. This family-run bar and grill is your go-to for mouth-watering wings, unbeatable weekly specials, and a welcoming atmosphere that feels like home. They had a Husker night last night. They got Hawkeyes and Cyclones coming up tomorrow. I think the Cyclones kick off at 11, Hawks at 5. Watch all the games right there at the Mile Away. And while you're there, get some wings. For my money, they're the best around. So again, the Mile Away, located on Old Lincoln Highway, just north of Council Bluffs. Thank you very much again to Carol Horner for joining us today. And these are conversations that sometimes can be a little bit difficult to have, but Carol makes it easy. And she kind of said, look, we need to look at ourselves at the same time that we're looking at other people if we want to know truly how to communicate with each other. And that should be the goal. If you are trying to implement change, and again, I talked about this right there in that interview, then if you need to actually have a conversation with someone to learn where it is that they're coming from. If you just want like-minded people to pat you on the back, then by all means, throw out name calling and just get angry and shut people down and don't talk at all. I prefer not to go that direction. So again, thank you, Carol, for some really good lessons today. That gets to the end of the week. Once again, a reminder, we will not have a show on Monday. Back with you again on Tuesday. My name's Todd Studer. Happy Labor Day.